Do you have enough water stored in case of emergency? You never know when an emergency is going to happen. In this video, I'll show you some ways to store water and how much you should store. Government agencies such as FEMA and the CDC recommend that you store at least 2 weeks worth of water per person. I would imagine that most Americans don't have anywhere near that amount of water stored. Some people may even think it's crazy for you to store that much water. But if the power grid goes down for an extended period of time, your municipal water supply will eventually stop working because their backup generators may have failed because they run out of fuel. It could be that your water became contaminated somehow, and it could take weeks to clear that up before you could drink the water from your tap again. There's many reasons why you should store water. So how much water should you store? Given that you're supposed to store 2 weeks worth of water per person, that would be 14 gallons per person. So example, a family of 3, that'd be a total of 42 gallons they would need. But you want to add about 10%. I always recommend adding 10% to your water and food storage for family and friends and neighbors and such that may not have prepared. You want to have that water available in smaller containers like bottled water or like a gallon jug of water, because if they come knocking and they need water, you don't want to have to go pump water out of your 55-gallon drum or something, or pour it out into some kind of improvised container. It'd be best you could just hand it to them and say, good luck. So an example, a family of 3, you would have you needed 42 gallons, so that'd be 10% of that would be 4.2 gallons. If you buy a case of water, like I typically buy, that case of water, a 40-count case of water, is about 5 gallons. So that would be enough. So you could just store that in a place, and that's your extra water supply for your friends and neighbors. 2 weeks of water storage is great, but what if you run out? What if it's longer than 2 weeks that your water is cut off, doesn't work? If you live in an area where there's plenty of streams and you get plenty of rain and there's rivers and close by and stuff, you could use that water. Of course, you have to filter it and purify it. I have upcoming videos on how to do that. But what if you didn't live in an area that had plenty of rain and streams and rivers? How would you get more water? So in those cases, I recommend actually storing 3 months of water. And I realize that may sound like a lot and not be feasible for some people. That would come to about 270 gallons using the family of 3 as the example I had. That's a lot of water. So how could you store that much water? Let's talk about different ways to store water now. So what are the different types of water storage containers? As I mentioned, you got your bottled water we talked about a minute ago. You have these gallon jugs you can get. The next one I wanted to talk about is these aquatainers. I picked this up at Walmart. It holds 7 gallons. You can also get it at Amazon. That's a great one. I have several of these stashed around the house. I have some in closets. I have some in corners behind furniture. I have a few of these. These are awesome. They're relatively inexpensive. I think around $15. But if this is too big still, and you live in a small space, there's something called water bricks. If you go to Amazon, you'll see them. The water bricks. They're very flexible. You can buy in packs of 6 in different sizes, I think, and they're stackable. You can store them flat under your bed. You can stack them in a closet, top of a closet. I think I forget the size of them. They're a couple of gallons, I think. That's a nice option. But if you want to store them in your bed, but your bed may not be high enough to go slide under, you can get these bed risers that actually the legs of your bed sit on it, slightly elevate your bed. Then you can get these water bricks underneath it. The water bricks are a great option. There are many other options to store water. There's works. There's different stackable options. There's all kinds of things. If you just go on Amazon and look for water storage, you'll see an endless supply of different types. The last option I want to talk about is 55-gallon drums. They're designed specifically to store water. I have one. I bought it off Amazon. It came with a water pump to pump the water out. It came with water treatment. And it came with a little wrench that you open the lid of. You always want to buy these brand new. You never want to just pick up a used one and somebody told you, oh, we stored, whatever in there. But I wouldn't trust that. I would always buy new if you can. I would say that's a must. There's actually stackable 55-gallon drums. Those come with a price though. They're expensive. You can stack them. You can stack, I think, 2 high, maybe 3 high in some cases. But also, that people build these kind of elaborate, usually out of heavy wood, 2x4s and plywood, and they actually stack like 6 of these water drums and have them hooked together and spigots and everything. Really, they get really fancy with it. That's an option you can do, and you probably most likely have something like that in the garage. There's actually one more option I wanted to mention, and that is it's a plastic container that's basically like a film, like it's flexible, and it fits in your bathtub, and you can fill it. You can turn on your bathtub and fill it right there in your, and you could get a lot of water in, like 100 gallons or something, depending on the size of your bathtub. And one brand I think is called Water Bob. I'll put a link below. But the only problem with that is you have to know there's a disaster. So it may be too late. But if a disaster strikes, or you've received an alert from the government saying, expect water outage for an extended period of time, you can go ahead, if the water still works, go ahead and fill it up then. Then you'll have that water. That's a good option. Where should we store the water? You want to try to, the best ideal option would be a cool, dark place. Never in direct sunlight. It's that could cause things to grow in the water. I wouldn't do that. If it's an area that gets hotter, like a garage, then you need to rotate your water more often. Like I rotate my water about once a year, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 5 years, depending on the storage method. If it's in the garage, I'm going to try to rotate it about every 6 months. So before you store your water in a container, you need to properly disinfect that container. You take 1 teaspoon of unscented bleach, normal household bleach, but unscented, to 1 gallon of water. You pour that in the container and shake it up really good, and make sure that bleach solution covers every inside surface of the container, and the lid included. Of course, put the lid on when you shake it. The CDC has a website. I'll put the link below, and it has details on how to do that. It has a lot of other good information as well. Okay, now that the disasters happen and you want to drink this water, you want to be very careful not to contaminate your water supply. If it's a bottle or something, you might drink that right away. But if you got a 55-gallon drum or something large, you want to be very careful. Like if you remove the lid, don't touch the inside of the lid. Don't touch the inside of the container. Never stick your hands in there. Even if your hands are very clean, don't stick your hands in there. Anything like the 55-gallon drums come with a water pump that you stick in there, and it has a long piece that goes all the way to the bottom where you can pump the water out. You want to make sure that's very clean and disinfect it with bleach before you stick it in there. You tighten it down, and you can pump your water out. The last thing I wanted to mention is that you could include other sources of liquid instead of just water. If you want, you could store, sodas, Gatorades, things like that. They do have a limited shelf life, so just look at the best by used date on the packaging to see how long they last. But you can rotate through those. But you can include that in the calculations of how much water you need to store. Well, I hope you got some good information out of this. Remember, I have some more videos coming up on water filtration and purification and ways to get additional water when you run out. Thanks for watching.